All right, we're live.
We're live. So, I've got this right here.
You didn't have a one for me?
Yeah, I do have one for you. These are Elise's.
Let's see if it fits. My head is surprisingly small.
Yeah.
What? See?
Oh, wow.
Of course, I don't have.
Because this one doesn't fit my head.
Well, I don't have hair either, but my head itself is surprisingly small.
So I'm Dr. Stuart.
I am
Dr.
Hodnett.
Hodnett. And we're talking about Into the Unknown with Flu 2020.
Did we put this picture on Facebook, or this is making no sense to people?
No. Well, if you've watched Frozen and Into the Unknown, this is the main song in the second Frozen movie. But no, we didn't post it. I wanted to.
So,
but Colin thought maybe it was a little silly.
The inside joke is somebody made
One of our employees
advertisement with us wearing as Elsa and Anna.
So Jessica's dream came true because she was the one that put that
she's
together.
The one that,
Uh-huh.
So this is for you, Jessica. Mm-hmm. I can take it off now.
Yeah,
though,
well,
right?
I'll take it off. You can wear it if you want.
Yeah, maybe on the weekends.
I pulled out some stuff from some things I found.
Yeah, so what
from
do you have?
Some flu, like Flu 2020.
Okay.
So, you know, I've heard that you can whatever goes on in Australia or the southern hemisphere, is that what's going to translate to
Yeah,
what
because
we
their flu
have?
season happens first.
So apparently in Australia, compared to, so their flu season goes from April to October,
Okay.
and August is a peak, which makes sense because they're in the opposite from us. So apparently last year they had 21. They had 247,000 cases.
Okay.
And now it's just like 21,000.
Right.
So it's been a lot more mild.
Right. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when people are saying, oh, everybody's, you know, I hear a headline saying, oh, everybody's gripping for a bad flu season, or, you know, the tandem flu and COVID season or something like that. You know, in my mind, with all these, I guess, with all of the advice of, you know, social distancing and wearing a mask, I mean, you would think that it's going to be lower, right? Mm-hmm. I guess that would be a gauge, right? So if flu season is at least just as bad as last year, that tells me that people's behavior hasn't really changed all that much.
Yeah. So
but I would suspect it's going to be a much more mild season simply because people are doing what they're doing because of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's what they suspected too. Actually, I think there was a couple of different sources. They kind of gave different numbers for the flu cases, but it's just like a fraction of the number of cases that they had. And then they were saying, yeah, is it because of the school closures? Is it because I don't know if they're still closed for school permanently. Australia, I haven't looked.
I think parts of Australia, I mean, just like here in the United States, local governments tend to be a little bit more heavy-handed or not when it comes to locking things down.
Oh, okay.
So I know in like Victoria proper is pretty locked down. At least it was in a few. This was there was a video of a pregnant woman who was cops were coming to arrest her because she was not wearing a mask.
Oh dear.
So some governments have decided to be a little heavy-handed with it over there. And then there's other people in other parts of Australia where they say it's not quite like that. So I'm sure they...
And so like the social distancing, and they're trying to say like a lot of people so apparently in Australia they had ordered 18 million flu vaccines versus 13 million prior. So they're thinking maybe the flu vaccine, a lot more people are getting the flu vaccine this year too. So maybe that takes a part too.
Yeah,
maybe. You know.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see a reduction that big. You went from 200,000 to 20,000. There's never been a flu vaccine that's been that successful. Like if you look at the CDC data, like how good has this flu vaccine been? If I remember correctly, and there it's available, you can go look at it. But like on a good year, they're saying that it's like 30% effective.
Yeah,
on a bad year, you're looking at like 5%. So if they made their guess right, then you can get that. So that is way more than just a 30% reduction in that. So that would be an extremely successful flu vaccine campaign.
Oh, and they were also
Australia.
saying like maybe the people in the southern hemisphere have had an immunity, a natural immunity to the influenza vaccines, because South America and South Africa were kind of experiencing the same kind of scenarios, like mild flu cases. Unless it's just because the whole world's, taking precaution.
Yeah, I mean, so what has changed, right?
Yeah,
to me,
that's
it
changed.
seems more sensible that overnight people have not become more immune to the flu. It seems more sensible that because people are worried about COVID, people have changed behaviors, and it's turned into,
Less social outings.
COVID being a transmissible
people working from home.
respiratory virus, we're trying to decrease that transmission, conceivably. The same things that are going to decrease COVID are going to decrease flu. That seems more likely to me than
Some of these
overnight
other
people
things.
have these stunning immunity to the flu virus. I mean, I guess supposedly maybe you could
I don't
be
know.
like,
That was mentioned. That I was like, I've never.
yeah. I mean, obviously it's a theory that you could try to bear up, but I would bet my money on behavior more than immunity to something. So one thing I have been getting asked, especially this, because I think maybe some people who maybe didn't usually get the flu vaccine are kind of now thinking about it this year because of COVID and all these other things. So people are asking me about timing of the flu vaccine. So what do you tell them when they say, oh, when should I get it?
Well, I think as early as it comes out, you should get it, theoretically, right? But I think they say that it's going to be a later flu season this year just because of everybody's kind of covered up in masks and taking precautions. I haven't really seen any information on flu vaccines or flu propping up here locally yet.
No, I haven't seen any
I haven't
hotspots
seen
here. I guess there's some things
They
to
say by
suggest
October,
that
right?
immunity to the flu vaccine might wane within 4 months to 6 months or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So if you get yours in October, November, December, January, February.
There was
So-
one year the flu lasted until April.
Right,
Was
and
it
if
like
I
a
recall,
year last
has
year
your
or the year before?
experience been that I will usually see an uptick in flu cases? Like the peak tends to be kind of late January, February time, at least here in Texas.
But the question is it going to be a little bit later? Because everything's maybe going to start later. I don't know.
I guess, again, I don't know if I think it might be more mild simply because people are changing behavior. Let's say during the holiday season, people are being very good, and maybe for some reason after the new year, people just decide to, or it might be, it might be that people start mixing things up during the holiday season, so you see it become a little bit stronger than afterwards. I don't know. But
There was a spike in COVID after Memorial Day. You were out that week, which is great. I want you to be on vacation. But after Memorial Day, there's just a lot of calls of people. I guess people just getting together.
yeah.
So I wonder if that's going to happen over Thanksgiving or
There's that.
December.
And then you
so.
have the bias of, because COVID symptoms are kind of so non-specific, you get congestion and a little, you're like, oh, is this COVID, right? So maybe people are a little hyper-vigilant when they talk about things, but still doesn't explain you're always that way. But yeah, when it comes to that, it would be people interacting with other people that cause it to cause.
So this is where it becomes challenging of determining, like, is it COVID or are you just having allergies, or really between COVID and the flu, because flu can have GI symptoms too,
Yeah.
vomiting and diarrhea as well. So it'll be interesting. I
So
think.
food for thought. So
COVID,
there's
flu swab up the nose, same time.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some people who are compiling all-cause mortality, how many people die in the U.S. every year. And I think I was looking at, like, on average over the past, you know, 4 or 5 years in the United States, there's been like 2.8 million, like 2,850,000 deaths a year, right around there. And in essence, it looks like we will be having less deaths on average in total in this country, even with COVID, than without COVID in years prior. So just food for thought, you know.
Yeah.
Are we successful in doing those things? You know, if you were to believe everything, you know, you would say this is all a failure and things like that. And I'm sure, and obviously, in hindsight, there are things that we could have done better. And when's the last, in my lifetime, there's never been anything like this. Although people have said it's possible and could come, we were probably ill prepared for it. So, you know, these things should happen in the future. Hopefully, history will teach people to do other things. But in general, I mean, I don't know. If your only measurement was how many lives are you losing, and when you talk about that, I guess you would have to think in total. Because again, with changing behaviors and not moving around, there was probably
like
a
maybe
time
less
when
driving.
traffic accidents were down and all these other things. But on the flip side, other things are probably up. You know, I would have to hypothesize that perhaps, you know, people have talked about substance abuse going up and all those other things. So people are dying from different things perhaps, but the total amount of deaths seems to be at least about on average or maybe a little bit less this year. So just food for thought.
Interesting. Well, we have our flu vaccines in at both locations. Bertha, the girls, they gave 18 flu vaccines in a day the other day and then 13 the next day. People just wanting to come in. So.
Yeah, so they're finally here. I guess as a, you know, a public health type of thing, it's always recommended to get the flu vaccine.
Have you ever gotten the flu? Like, been diagnosed with it?
No, I've never been diagnosed with it.
Yeah, I haven't had it either.
The last time that I can think that perhaps I was sick with the flu was probably junior high, and it was just, I recall feeling horrible, kind of the achiness from your head to your toe. I remember being like, I was wearing like flannel pajamas and wrapped up in a bathrobe, and on top of that I had more blankets, and I was just shivering. And I just remember it not being very fun. But that's probably the last time that I can recall feeling that sick, that I think it might have been the flu. Since then, I think everything has just been like colds.
Yeah. Even when I was in Houston working at the urgent care there, I think it was one of the worst years for flu. And I didn't get the flu that year either. I don't know, it was just interesting. Like after, you know, seeing so many people. So
what do you attribute your lack of flu?
Natural influenza immunity. I don't know. But I don't remember feeling anything. But I know, like in our family, when, you know, people tend to get sick, I tend to get less sick than others.
Did we talk about some people having some COVID immunity because of prior infections with other strains of the coronavirus?
No, we didn't. Well, we probably talked about it in the office.
But anyway, so, I mean, that some people theorize that people have some already protective things because there's 4 strains that come with the seasonal cold season. And they think that maybe some of that can confer some immunity to people.
And hopefully we're all getting other natural immunity from being exposed in one way or another.
Yeah,
maybe,
I mean, in general.
Over time, hopefully, herd immunity. So we'll see. But I don't think the COVID vaccine's going to come out any time soon. Have you seen any updates on that?
I kind of have
not been I haven't been following it, but I remember it.
I know one, you know, I remember the last big headline I saw was that bad reaction of the transverse myelitis case.
So I think
And-
that was a flurry. No, it was that company that starts with the
And I
Is there
haven't
a
been
company that
following.
starts with
I
an
think
A?
Russia started
Aflac.
deploying their vaccine. I haven't seen any
Oh.
data about what's been happening over there. So I don't know. We will see how things go in general.
Mm-hmm. This just makes me laugh. So my stepdad sent a text message. You're talking about Russia and flu vaccines. And he sent this text message that was like, hey guys, I wanted to share this with you and thought you should know, but I went ahead and volunteered for the trial of the COVID vaccines that are from Russia.
Okay.
And, they said, what did it say, Colin? That they said it's good for me and it shouldn't cause any harm and everything's okay. And then the text message goes into where he's like, where he starts speaking Russian or something. It's like Russian language. And I don't remember what it translated to, but he got me. And at first.
So you thought that your father
I thought my
had
stepdad
enrolled in a trial?
had enrolled in a trial for the COVID vaccine, and I couldn't. At first, I was mad because he didn't even talk
Right, your
about
first
it with
reaction
me.
was
I'm
to
like,
do
you
what?
didn't even talk about this with me,
Oh.
and I was upset.
Yeah.
Anyways, but everybody else knew it was a joke apparently, so I'm kind of gullible. So I think we're done with are we done with the flu vaccine topic?
Yeah, flu and
2020,
COVID, viral type things.
No cases reported yet. No cases reported yet, but if you're interested in coming by for a flu swab up one nostril and a COVID up the other, just let us know.
Most patients, they decide to do the same nostril that I've done. Because I've swabbed people for both recently. And I ask them, and they say, no, just do the same side.
Nostril? Okay.
Yeah. So.
So I've had patients coming in, they've been struggling with weight gain during this COVID period, the quarantine. I've named it the COVID-15.
Okay.
It's kind of clever.
COVID
Versus the
freshman
freshman 15.
Freshman
So-
15, is that more? I've heard that used mainly with females.
What? No,
Have
it's
you not? Is
dudes
it too? I don't know.
No,
I could
maybe
be wrong.
women are just more conscious about their weight.
Yeah, well,
so
that's
they
what. Yeah,
express
yeah.
it
That's
more.
what I would say. Guys just wouldn't really complain about it all that much.
So.
But yeah, I've seen people. In addition to weight gain, I've seen people who are very extroverted people deal, emotionally and mentally. Kind of, it's taken its toll of being more socially isolated and things like that. So I think in addition to weight gain, there's other things that people are kind of dealing with.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes people not like. I tend to be. I try to find the silver lining in things, right? And so, if anything, this is affording people that opportunity to kind of change something, right? Change a routine. Because most of the time, people who are gaining this probably aren't. It's because they're, in a sense, they're not going. Their life isn't the same as it once was before, right?
Right.
So
Whether it's stress eating or.
Yeah, or they're just for a while they weren't going into work. Maybe they're still working at home. I got plenty of.
Or they're working from home and it's
Yeah.
so easy, to get food.
At the same time, you're working from home,
Uh-huh.
and so you do have this extra flexibility, right? So, are you going to take advantage of the time to? Now I can work from home, and maybe whatever you would have dialed into your commute, now you've got that extra time to try to maybe start working out or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's how we respond to a new situation to allow us to do that. And so I've seen both. I've seen people take advantage of it, and maybe
Yeah.
their health
Yeah,
is
I've seen
changing as
both.
well. So
Yeah, I've seen both. I just wanted to share mainly I just want to talk about that because of my clever COVID-15.
the COVID. Oh, you wanted the COVID-15. So how have you been helping people rebound from this COVID-15?
I talked to them a lot about what are they what are they eating? Where do they feel that they can improve? Like, do they recognize areas that they can improve?
Right.
Or maybe, curbside delivery pickup was so easy, they just go pick up the food that they want. Or are they struggling with some mild depression or anxiety and stress eating with that too? And I encourage them to get more active and try to think of different ideas as far as portion and exercise ideas. And I think I've had some patients that have literally been isolating themselves for 7 months, like literally not going anywhere. And then others that, are a bit more, that carefree. And then, there's the middle ground too. But some of the patients that I've had that have been isolating themselves have kind of, it's been taking a toll psychologically for them. So I encourage them, hey, if there's a couple of friends and you at least feel comfortable, going out on the porch and like hanging out with some of your friends, or outside, or in baby steps to where they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But just try to find, be compromising with what you feel you can do and what you also need for social relationships.
Yeah, I think
we need people. I don't think we're really made to live alone. I mean, the people that moved to Alaska all by themselves are.
I think again, in hindsight, people are kind of saying, what was the cost of doing what we did to, I guess, in public health, right? Mm-hmm. What was the cost to the measures that we put in place in an effort to prevent, COVID and things like that? Everything comes at a cost. Recently I heard the WHO officially take the position that lockdown measures, they claim that they never said that lockdown measures should be a primary way of preventing the spread of it. And then maybe they're right, but if you saw, if you're back in the spring, one government after another, they saw that guy do it, so now we're going to do it. And it seemed like everyone was taking cues from the WHO, so I'd have to go back and look and see what their official position was. But I think recently they kind of came out and, in a sense, they're trying to backtrack. If that was their position then, they're trying to say, they were misunderstood or things like that. Because more and more people are again seeing these perhaps unanticipated consequences of decisions that were taking place, and I think it's worth to have a thoughtful discussion and examination of how things went, what was well and what was bad, and how things would go again.
Well, have you thought about how you're going to try to gain your COVID-15?
Yeah, I have. I've been talking to.
Did you eat gizzards again for lunch?
No, last night was my last plate of gizzards. I'll have some more later on, but of that thing.
Have you decided what labs? So Dr. Hodnett played around with the idea of checking baseline labs. Mary, do you know this? Oh, okay.
So the idea is, so I was listening to a podcast, and with discussions about dietary things, if you think of two extremes, you've got like plant-based people who are like, plant-based is the way to go. And then I listened to a podcast with a doctor out of California, and he follows a carnivore diet. And he goes so far as to say, plants are poisonous to you, right? And it's kind of a hyperbolic statement, but it is true. We know that uncooked beans and things like that hold toxins in them, but we know that if you cook them and things like that, it goes away. And that holds true to a lot of plants. And evolutionary, you would say, as a defense mechanism, these plants didn't want to get eaten, and so they made ways to kind of help themselves out. Anyway, so he follows a carnivore diet, but he also stresses that we probably discard parts of the animal that are nutritious for us. So what he does, like what? So he eats pancreas, spleen, liver, those types of things, right? So he is a big proponent of what he calls tail to snout type of eating, right? If you partake of the whole animal, that his claim is that you're going to be better. And so I think I already shared this with you. So, and he even, as a physician, his father had premature heart disease, like had a heart attack in his 40s or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So he's been following this diet for, I don't know, let's call it 2 years. And so what he'll do is he will usually kind of have thinly cut meat, usually some sort of steak that's usually used for a roast, so not the most expensive cuts. And he will kind of gently poach them in like bone broth and like eat that. So that's his meat. And then he says he has shooters of raw pancreas and spleen and things like that. And he eats about twice a day.
I don't know.
So this got me to thinking. It's like, well, would I be able to show? Because my thoughts are both of those ways of thinking are pretty extreme.
Yeah, it's very extreme.
So could I do those things, follow labs, and see what the difference is? And my hypothesis is, if I have a well-balanced diet down the middle, I will probably be just as well off as these extremes, and probably enjoy life better because I can eat more of kind of what I want. So I think, again, the old adage of all things in moderation, I think will hold true. And I thought it would be interesting to document this. And so it would be getting baseline labs. I think for the holiday season, eat whatever I eat. I would intentionally eat things that I know are not good for me to see what sort of things I can promote in my body. So with regard, so can I
You grow the third arm.
well, not something like that. But can I create an environment that I can see in labs that I know would be like a great environment to start atherosclerosis and all those types of things, right? So one, I can prove that I'm doing bad things, right? So then the next thing you do is then you go to, one of those two extreme diets.
Extremes.
And if I were going to do this over a long period of time, I suppose I would want to do both of them, right? And see what changes between the two, and then go back to kind of in the middle and see how things go. And then in the meantime, document how I feel and all those other types of things. And it was just something that I thought might be, and to me, because I like doing things like that, might be fun to do.
And then, so we're also going to give your wife maybe a checklist of things that she can notice, like grumpiness.
Sure. I mean, even people here in the office, is he grumpier?
He's slower. He's not helping out with chores as much. He's kind of, know.
I would be willing to see how I'm affected in all domains. So if I do this and people notice that I'm gaining weight, that's why.
Okay.
It's all kind of and then we'll see. And then we'll see like how much I can. At my highest.
We could do our body composition analysis thing on you before.
At my highest, I was getting close to like 200.
Where are you now?
Right now, I'm like 173. So I'm looking at close to 30 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Close to 30 pounds. And because I want to only see how diet affects this, I'm still going to probably try to keep some regular exercise in there. So keep things kind of
like what you're
normal.
Doing before.
Yeah, which is not a lot, but it's something. It's enough to keep the aches and the pains away. That's my goal when it comes to exercise. I don't want to wake up in the morning stiff. And when I come home, if the kids ask me to play, I don't want to. My goal was I don't want to tell them no because I just feel poorly and I don't want to do it. So that was my goal with that. And so I think I only do enough currently to kind of keep those aches and pains away, which is fine. And maybe with time I do more.
If your kids want to volunteer comments, like, Daddy's belly's getting big, or Daddy just wants to sit on the couch now.
They can. So we'll see how things go. So thinking about things that I can indulge in. If I had a weakness, it would be Bluebell ice cream. So I'll probably eat a lot of Bluebell.
Oh,
and then I was big, like, if I didn't worry, even now I think my tastes have changed. But once upon a time, I didn't like water, right? So I would drink everything but water, which usually would include everything with sugar in it. So going back to sugary drinks could be a thing. I guess if people say, let's go out to eat, my answer will always be okay. Because right now I don't do it all that often. So going out to eat more. And so if people have any suggestions about what I should eat in order to gain 30 pounds, let me know.
Mary says she has suggestions.
So I'm not worried about doing long-term damage.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Um,
I'm not worried about that either.
So we'll see. And then hopefully maybe if I gain 30 pounds and then lose it again, it gives some of my patients motivation. I could tell them, hey, I've been through it, right? Because sometimes people, I think the worst thing I hear is I'm doing everything I need to and I still can't gain weight. I don't
Yeah.
like hearing that because then you're like, well, what else can you do other than all you can do, right? There's got to be something you can, if we're going to be realistic with ourselves, there's got to be something you can change. So sometimes in the back of my head, when people are saying, hey, I'm doing everything I need to do, I'm kind of like, are you really doing everything? Because I would feel it's a better answer when I know I need to change this. Because if you can identify something you need to change, then you're the person empowered to change it, right? When there's nothing you can do, then you kind of feel futile. And if there's literally nothing you can do, then what can you do? Nothing. So I don't know if people are being dramatic or things like that, but you kind of
I'm just frustrated,
Yeah, it's some of that. Anyway, so.
Okay.
Well, and so I'm 38 years old, so I'm not extremely. I'm not old by any means, but maybe I'm not at that point where, if we were younger, we could have really, really bad habits and didn't show any effects whatsoever. So I think I'm of the age where time has taken some of its
probably
toll
feel it.
on my body,
Yeah,
so
you'll
that
feel it.
I shouldn't be like, oh, I can't gain any weight, So we'll see what happens.
All right. Mary.
Even at this point, even up until we were discussing it, I've still been contemplating it. And I think now that I've said it out loud, I kind of have to do it.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that was a good talk, but I remember you saying, the last part of this video is going to be you singing Into the Unknown.
No, that's not yeah, that part.
No. It's a good movie, though. If you haven't seen the Frozen movies, they're good. Do you ever find yourself listening to the soundtrack in your car?
No.
Oh. Okay.
What's the latest thing? So my kids found a cartoon called Steven Universe.
I'll listen to the soundtrack in my car.
So there's the opening song of that one is what I've been humming in my head.
Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Well, I guess until next time, we'll get together those labs and draw some of them.
Yeah, so next time we should at least have baseline labs.
Of
and
where you are right
where
now.
I am, and then we'll see how things, and I'll give, reports on how things are going. And the funny thing is, this initial phase of it is successful if we know that things look really, really bad. It's kind of odd, but yeah, that's what we're doing.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Mary. Okay.
Until
All
next
right.
time.